now this is boxing.
Yeah. What about Kell Brook?
Kell Brook?
He said 157 he'll fight you.
I think he's too small.
Too small?
Too small, yeah. You know, my focus on 160, middle division right now. Kell Brook or everybody just trash talk, you know.
Trash talk?
Yeah. He's ready, of course, you know. Why Canelo? Because he's champion middleweight. Why Cotto? Because he's champion. He's big champion on Sergio Martinez middleweight division. My focus on middleweight division. You know, my goal is all the belts in middleweight division.
You don't feel it, then it must be too real to touch. You'll never in your life try to knock the truth. The illest shit ever. Get ready, cause this is about to get heavy.
Trying to keep me out, trying to censor what I say, cause they don't like what I'm talking about. So it's wrong with the media today.
Prove I'm lying if I ain't correct.
What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back for some more boxing. Well, Top Rank's Bob Arum recently made his comments on the Gennady Golovkin versus Kell Brook mismatch. And I'm going to talk about what he said and really expand on some of my thoughts from previous videos. And Bob Arum says he basically thinks it's a joke. He says, I don't believe that. That's crazy. I mean, Golovkin is fighting a welterweight? I'm a little shocked. Is that even a fight? Triple G versus Chris Eubank Jr. makes sense. At least Eubank is a middleweight. It's not a bad fight. But Gennady Golovkin against a welterweight? Give me a break, right? And the biggest problem that he has is exactly what I said. And I'll keep it real on my channel. I don't always agree with Bob Arum, namely when it's about promoting his fighters. A lot of times, shit like the Mayweather-Pacquiao, I thought he said a lot of things that necessarily weren't true. So that's the beauty of it. With me, I don't have to be partial or impartial to anybody. If they say something I agree with, then I can admit it. If they don't, then I don't. You know what I mean? So I don't always agree with Bob Arum, but I definitely agree with him here. And what he's saying is basically the same thing that I said in my previous videos. Brook is facing a guy who is destroying all the fighters at middleweight, and without acclimating, not even just acclimating, but that is one part of it, without acclimating to middleweight or weights higher than 147, he's going in against the #1 middleweight. And the only excuse that I've heard is the Eubanks made it hard, or Kell Brook wanted the fight, he signed in 24 hours. I mean, you got to look at it. Be real with yourself. Floyd Mayweather is the cash cow of all of boxing. There's not one fighter that I could think of that probably wouldn't want that payday. Gary Russell Jr., Vasil Lomachenko, Oscar Valdez, all those guys would probably move up a million weight classes to fight Floyd Mayweather because they'd be getting career high paydays, and Floyd's getting older, so maybe they think they can beat him or something. But guess what? I don't want to see Floyd Mayweather versus Gary Russell Jr. or Gamboa, or a guy who clearly is 2 divisions or less smaller than him. I mean, that's not how it should be. And I agree with Bob Arum wholeheartedly with this. And you guys can say whatever you want. Oh, but everyone else was too chicken to fight Golovkin. So the most threatening puncher, who in the past has said they'll fight from 54 to 168, instead of looking up, they're looking down. I guarantee you he would have. I just seen an interview, and Golovkin says, I'm not moving up to 68 until I have all the belts. So it's just so many contradictions. Golovkin's team said they would move up for Carl Froch. Basically, you pick and choose and select the fights you want at a higher division. Nah, we're not going to fight Andre Ward. We'll fight Chavez or Froch, but no Ward. He has to come down to a catch weight. So you'll fight the guy that Ward beat, right? He beat Carl Froch with one hand, and you'll fight him, or you'll fight Chavez with no amateur pedigree, who comes in with his head down and got stopped by Fonfara, even though he didn't get stopped at the time where this fight was in talks. He got stopped the very next fight after the Top Rank lawsuit. You know what I mean? It's not a good look for Team Golovkin, especially since they criticized Canelo. So I agree with Bob Arum with what he's saying. We're talking about middleweights who are having difficulty taking his power. Now, on top of that, it's a guy who, in Golovkin, who is facing a guy who hasn't even, not even the acclimating is one thing, but in addition to acclimating, Kell Brook, his last couple of fights haven't been tough fights. They haven't been fights where they were 50-50 fights. He hasn't fought a Sean Porter rematch. He hasn't fought Errol Spence. He hasn't fought Keith Thurman. He hasn't even fought a Josecito Lopez. The guys that Kell Brook recently beat since Sean Porter, after the Sean Porter, I don't even know if they could beat Josito Lopez. Real, and that's real. Josito carries a lot of experience. Stopped Victor Ortiz, broke his jaw, hurt Maidana, and then ended up losing. Been in there with Berto. He was winning the first half of the Berto fight till Berto caught him. You know what I mean? He's been in there with Canelo. I don't know if Jojo Dan and Kevin Bezier, Frankie Gavin can even beat Josito Lopez. Josito Lopez also beat Aaron Martinez, who just beat, in my opinion, Robert Guerrero. He should have won that fight. And he just beat Devin Alexander and lost to Sammy Vasquez. So Aaron Martinez is solid. You got to look back and give credit to Josito. Josito also fought Jesse Vargas, who's now a champion. So Josito, he's tough. And Kell Brook's last few opponents haven't even been guys that I would even say could definitely beat a Josito Lopez, right? So the preparation for Triple G sucks. And if this were to happen, where we're going to see a welterweight jump up 2 divisions, at least let him do some more damage in his own division. Now, this is the hypocrisy, and don't make me do another Ego Valley video on this, man. But this is hypocrisy. When Andre Ward, he's not even a trash talker, I know, dude. Not even a trash talker. But when asked about Gennady Golovkin, he says, I don't duck no man, I don't fear no fight. I'll fight Golovkin. And then, bottom line, Team Triple G, they did not want to fight him. They wanted no parts of it. Oh, we're not looking. Oh, Ward, not today. I'm not ready, and all this stuff. I mean, trying to make him do a catch weight. These are all indications they didn't want to fight. Oh, we want to stay in Unify, things of that sort. So Ward got tired of it and moved up to like heavyweight, where he's fighting Kovalev. Now, the hypocrisy comes in here. When Ward, who wasn't even a real trash talker, when he was calling out Golovkin, if you will, or saying he would fight Golovkin, what did some of these biased fans say? They say, oh, Ward, why is he picking on smaller guys? Why doesn't he go up and fight Kovalev? Fast forward to the future, guess what? If he gets past Brand, he is fighting Kovalev. If Kovalev gets past his opponent, Chilimba, they are fighting. So Ward did what you expected him to do, or said you wanted him to do. Meanwhile, instead of looking up, Golovkin is looking down. Who does that? When you have this crazy power that clearly they're saying, Abel's saying that Golovkin, he knocks out cruiserweights or hurts them in sparring and hits like a light heavyweight. Shane Mosley said something like that. And he's looking down to preserve a date instead of looking up. You know what I mean? Even at a catch weight, maybe you can get someone from 68 to come down to 66 or something. I mean, who knows? I don't know. I'm not in the negotiating table. But there has to be some other options. Again, if you can make it work where a welterweight with a perfect record is willing to jump up 2 weight divisions to fight you, then I guarantee you with the right pay, you can make pretty much anyone fight you. I said this, I was talking to Dante's Boxing Nation. Mike Tyson was a feared man. You know what I mean? If you didn't grow up in the 80s, then you wouldn't know this. You know what I mean? A lot of people just know the old interviews and stuff. He was feared. Guys that were 6'5", 6'6", outweighed Mike by 20, 30 plus pounds, right? Were getting stretched, right? And people say, oh, they were bums. The heavyweight division is no joke. You get punched by a 260 pound man, it'll probably hurt, right? You know what I mean? So power is a lot different. You can get a guy at 140 and you can't feel his punches at all. But I mean, if you're getting hit by guys who are 30 pounds heavier than you and they're heavyweight, 6'5", 6'6", you know what I mean? It'll probably hurt. And that's just what it is. Mike Tyson was still able to get some opponents, and I guarantee you nobody was willing to jump up from cruiserweight or light heavyweight to fight Mike in his prime, in the let's say 88 Mike Tyson. Oh yeah, I'll move up. You know what I mean? Like Evander Holyfield, when he was at cruiser, he didn't just jump up. That happened years down the road, right? He didn't just jump up and say, oh, I'll jump up. And Holyfield's a hell of a fighter with a chin. But people are willing to do this with Golovkin, so it kind of tells you something. He's not Mike Tyson. It's not the same level of fear. People fear him, and have avoided fights with him or haven't been antsy to get in the ring with him, you could say. But for the right price, you can get those guys in there. Again, if you're getting a welterweight in there, then trust me. And you guys can believe whatever you want. Oh, we offered Brook the same deal. Yeah, I don't believe that. You know what I'm saying? I understand the operational control stuff or whatever, but I know boxers, and I've heard different stuff where they disclose a certain amount, but the promoter were like, hey, I'll give you a little bit more off the top, right? Plus, Brook, is arguably a bigger name than Eubank Jr. I'm not sure because I'm not in the UK right now. So his pay-per-view with Golovkin, since it's such a weird fight, might generate more. And the main event usually gets a share of the pay-per-view back-end proceeds. So it might be lucrative. Plus, there could be a side money that's not disclosed that Brook is getting for taking this huge leap and huge risk. So that's all speculation since I can't prove it right now. But bottom line is Golovkin is fighting a welterweight. And that's what it is. And that welterweight hasn't acclimated. That welterweight hasn't even cleaned out his own division. Again, when you usually see this stuff happen, Sugar Ray Leonard was already a legend when he fought Hagler. You know what I mean? He didn't even have to fight Hagler. He could have, because he was actually in a retirement when he came back and fought Hagler. So in that offseason, he probably picked up some pounds. So yeah, he jumped up in weight from his previous fight date, but he was retired. So, you know what I mean? He probably picked up pounds and acclimated that way. You look at guys like Adrian Broner. He jumped up 2 weight classes as well. But guess what? He fought a light puncher in Paulie Malignaggi, and he struggled a bit. He lost the first half of the fight, and then he came on and won a split decision, which some people contest. You look at Robert Guerrero, off a long layoff, came back and fought a Selçuk Aydin, who Victor Postal later knocked out, and I think Jesus Soto Karass later beat soundly, right? And Guerrero did good at first, and then he kind of struggled in those late rounds, but he still became the interim champion in his first fight back, right? See how difficult those fights were? And Selçuk Aydin is not a world beater. He's a guy with power, and Guerrero was off a long layoff. You know what I mean? Paulie Malignaggi, you put him in there with Sean Porter, you've seen what happened. You put him in there with Keith Thurman, you put him in there with Kell Brook, they probably would have an easier time than Broner did because of the weight jump. Broner had to acclimate. Even though Paulie's not the biggest puncher, he still had to acclimate to a bigger man, a guy who could take his power better than a Gavin Reese at 135. Paulie has a good chin despite his losses. He does have a good chin, right? So, I mean, a lot of people give these historic examples, but you have to know boxing to understand it. Sugar Ray Leonard had a recess. He was a hiatus, and then he came back and fought Hagler. So he probably bulked up in his offseason and picked up pounds, right? And some people thought Hagler beat Leonard anyway, you know what I mean? Despite Leonard actually having won. A lot of people thought that he shouldn't have won. So that's another thing that people don't tell you. So it's clearly going to be an uphill battle. You could cite the Pacquiao versus De La Hoya. They did that with the Canelo Khan. Oh, but Pacquiao is Pacquiao. You know what I mean? And to this day, not many people are fucking with Pacquiao. Not named Mayweather. You know what I mean? No one's having an easy night with him. Bradley sure isn't. 3 tries, and he's not having an easy night. Plus, like I said before, the situation is totally different because Pacquiao, by the time he jumped up to fight De La Hoya, he was already on a run. He had already beaten Eric Morales 2 of the 3 times. He had already beaten Marco Antonio Barrera, the babyface assassin. He had already destroyed David Diaz, and he was like, holy shit, this guy is fast. His face looked like the Goonies. Hey, you guys, Rocky Road. So it's completely different. Kell Brook hasn't beat the Marco Antonio Barreras of the world. He hasn't beaten the guys like Juan Manuel Marquez. He hasn't beaten Eric Morales caliber guys 2 of 3 fights. You know what I'm saying? So it's a big difference in pedigree as to not saying Kell Brook doesn't have a ceiling at welterweight. It's what he's accomplished. What he's accomplished, his best wins, what? Sean Porter, Carson Jones, Sinchenko. You know what I mean? Those are probably his best wins. I wouldn't even say Frankie Gavin and Bezier and them. Like, who are they? Like, who are they gonna? They're not top guys. Name anybody they've beaten. You know what I'm saying? So you guys will see in September. I agree with Bob Arum. I don't think this is a good match. Again, middleweights aren't being able to take the power. So Kell Brook, he could be a big welterweight, but just like Chris Eubank said, a big welterweight is not a middleweight. And I'm telling you, it's a different ball game when you fight somebody who can crack at that weight, as opposed to if he just jumped up to middleweight and fought like a Willie Monroe. Okay, Kell Brook may have a better chance because that's not the strongest puncher. It's a guy with 6 knockouts or whatever. It's not the biggest puncher in that division. Golovkin is, right? And again, the Triple G apologists, they keep saying, oh, nobody wanted to fight Golovkin. Only Brook stepped up. And some of them same motherfuckers are the same ones who were clowning Brook just 2 weeks ago, saying, oh, he's scared of Jesse Vargas. Oh, he's fighting cans and he ain't fought nobody. Now all of a sudden the hypocrisy comes back miraculously, where Brook is just, oh, he's a warrior. This is a great fight. If it was a great fight, then why were you slamming Brook before you knew it was a fight? You were saying, oh, when's he gonna fight somebody? He just wants to fight mandatories and trash fighters. And, you know what I mean? They're bad-mouthing Brook. Now all of a sudden he steps up, and all of a sudden that's magically erased from memory. And again, the biggest thing that I said in the last Eubank video is this: if Brook is so good at middleweight, not at welterweight, if he's such a threat, then why are you guys not picking him? Why are you not betting with him? Why are you picking Golovkin to beat him? Because you should pick Golovkin to beat him based on the stylistic matchup and all the intangibles, right? People keep, oh, this is a great fight. A great fight, you don't know the winner. Look at, I guarantee you, Terrence Crawford, Victor Postal. I can find people that will bet for Iceman Postal and people that will bet on Terrence Crawford, because it's that type of fight. I literally seen it. I do videos all the time. Look how many videos I have. I talk about all these fighters and all these upcoming fights. Andre Ward versus Sergey Kovalev. I've literally talked to people. Some people think Ward's too skillful, his jab is too good. Some people think Kovalev is going to stop Ward because it's a good fight. You look at Sean Porter, Keith Thurman before it came out. Some people thought Porter's ruggedness and his pressure was going to be too much for Keith Thurman, and some people thought Keith Thurman was going to stop Sean Porter and or outbox him, right? Because it is a good fight. It is an evenly matched fight, right? And it's a meaningful fight. But you look at Triple G versus Brook. Who's picking Brook? And breaking it down, what advantage you've seen in Brook, how his last few opponents have built up for this moment, and he's ready to tackle the #1 middleweight. So we'll see in September what Brook does. He's a good fighter, but weight does matter. Size does matter. I'm out. Make sure you like my video as always. Hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video, it's Ego signing off.